Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the games that Sagittarius plays. Full disclosure, I'm a sun in Sagittarius, and I've been putting off this video because I would like to believe that Sagittarians don't play games. So that's a little bit biased, I suppose, and I try not to be biased, but I feel that out of all the signs, Sag is pretty above board and authentic in life. And that's one of the key phrases of Sag is truth and honesty, because Sag loves freedom. And if you're not authentic, then you're in a sort of a prison. So I'm trying to figure out how I can talk about this. But of course, no sign is perfect. And when we talk about games, I keep bringing it back to that book in the mid 60s, 1964 to be exact, called Games People Play. I don't know if I own a copy right now, but I remember always seeing that on my shelf growing up. One of those cheap little paperbacks that probably cost like 30 cents or something. And they broke apart very easily because they were mass produced. And the author was Eric Byrne, and I believe he was a psychiatrist. And he constructed these different games. I mean, he probably observed the way that people interacted with others and was able to label this game or that game. And like one of the ones that I remember is called Let's You and Him Fight. And that's basically triangulation, where you're getting two people, pitting them against each other, and you sit back and eat popcorn and watch them duke it out. And you stay above the fray. And some of these things we would recognize. I didn't read the book. I just kind of looked at some of the games and stuff like that, I remember in the past. But why do people play games? Well, that's like saying, why aren't people authentic when they're dealing with other people? Like, what's the big deal? Why can't you just be yourself? And you will notice, if you consider yourself a straightforward person, that there are people in this world who never come at you in a genuine way. There's always an angle, there's always artifice, a fakeness about how they're dealing with you. Why do they do that? Because they don't know who they are, ultimately. And so they can only kind of like put up a facade. I would say that this is also going to be associated with narcissistic behavior 9 times out of 10. Maybe some cases, the fear of intimacy, the fear of like letting down one's guard and being real can certainly come into play. So putting on an act is a way to kind of distance yourself from another person. Ultimately, it isn't our place or maybe our responsibility to be psychoanalyzing other people and trying to figure out what makes them tick. The bottom line is that's on them to heal within themselves. The reason I'm doing these videos is for you to see if the people in your life are playing games. And, you can do that by the sun sign. What games will they tend to play? Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. One thing that Sag can do, because Sag represents the 9th house, which among other things is the house of God, is be moralistic. Being moralistic means that the person is very much on a high horse, very preachy, and everybody else is, this fallen sinner. And they are, of course, being on their high horse above it all. So they can be absolved from any kind of blame for anything that's going on because they are pious and these other people are very sinful. And we can see that with with a sleazy televangelist who doesn't practice what he or she preaches. And of course, there have been some scandals over the years with televangelists, or just preachers in general, because, they're collecting large sums of money and at the same time chastising their flock, and behind closed doors, they're not practicing what they preach. Sag can easily become a hypocrite if they're not careful with that kind of moralizing. And why do people moralize? Well, sometimes there is that shadow self lurking within that the person has a disconnect with. And I think you will see when people are very judgmental about other people's foibles, or falls from grace, that there is something that triggers within themselves that they cannot deal with, that they're very uncomfortable with. And so it's almost like, puking when you have food poisoning, you have to get out of you. It's that same principle on a psychological level, that they have to rid themselves of that shame or that guilt by what? Projection. And they use ethics as a weapon against other people. There's a saying that, in terms of ethics or morality, that it's something that you do when no one's looking. And it's really weird how many people don't realize that morality isn't just following some rule or rules in your religion to the T. It's like, even if you weren't faced with eternal damnation, would you do it anyway? That's just being coerced into being a quote unquote good person. But how many people would do it regardless? So that's one thing that Sag can do, is act like they are better than other people from a spiritual standpoint. So there's like that arrogance, that can be present in all fire signs in one way or the other. Another thing is being pedantic, which is kind of the intellectual equivalent of being high in, what do they call it? Holier than thou. And being pedantic, unless I'm misusing this word, but I'm thinking of somebody who is kind of going on and on about a certain subject, like they're this expert, and meanwhile they're kind of putting other people down. There's an intellectual arrogance that can occur. And this can also be a cover-up for feelings of inferiority. But the problem is that it can enhance that in somebody else. And the other person may look at that Sagittarian, and maybe that Sagittarian has some kind of advanced degree, or they really think that Sag person is intelligent, so they kind of give away their power in that sense, and they're not really looking at the behavior that's accompanying it. And it's easy to do when a person has low self-esteem to begin with. I remember when I was younger, I mistook sometimes arrogance in other people as confidence. And now I can see the insecurity in people who feel the need to act in a very haughty manner, in, even if they are skilled at something, that's even more reason to be humble. And when a person isn't like that, it means that they are probably coming from a place of low self-esteem, even if they are talented. Being talented doesn't mean that you're going to feel good about yourself. Sometimes it just can be more confusing because the person doesn't understand why they don't feel good about themselves when they have so much to offer. When they're being praised, they still have a lot of issues. It might even be karmic. So if you are surrounded by somebody who is trying to make themselves out to be spiritually advanced. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like the guru syndrome. I personally believe that a true guru doesn't really want to be a guru. I'm thinking of some of these gurus that I think are really cool, like Ramana Maharshi. And I mean, he may have had disciples in the form of people who came to listen to him speak, but he didn't have an organized religion or anything like that. The more organized the the religion is, I think it becomes almost more like a corporate environment where there's a hierarchy and all of that. But these people that kind of were reluctant to take on followers and things like that, to me, those are the real deal. That's the real deal in terms of a guru, because it's not about enhancing the ego, even in a subtle way. They're really about the teachings, and they walk the talk. That's another aspect of it. So if you are friends with, involved with, as a partner, somebody who is a Sagittarian, and maybe they are like a zealot even sometimes, where their beliefs become what they think everybody else should follow. They're very aggressive about it. You sense that they are not genuine or like kind of consistent in what they believe and what they follow. And they're trying to imply that you need to follow them, you need to do what they're doing. That can be a form of control. It's not an equal relationship in that case. And I have said in some of these instances, a lot of these videos, that you have to let that person know how their behavior is affecting you. But in some of these cases, I feel like the other party is not going to be receptive more times than not. And will a Sagittarian be receptive? It depends on the individual. It's possible that the person doesn't realize what they're doing and how it is negatively impacting you, and that if you tell them, they will be much more careful not to push their beliefs onto you or try to moralize all the time, and just kind of like tend to their own garden rather than judging somebody else or trying to convert somebody else. That kind of thing can be very offensive to other people, oppressive to other people. and they don't like that. And so you can explain to them why you don't like it. Now, hopefully, I wish people would be more assertive while things are going on and just not be a weenie about it. But sometimes people let things build up until it gets unbearable. And that other person may feel like there's nothing wrong, like everything is hunky-dory. So you have to gauge somebody's response. I just have a lot of faith in Sages, ultimately. And I know that not all Sages are created equally. I have been really amazed at meeting fellow Sagittarians and realizing that they're not all the same. Even those personality traits that we associate with one sign are not necessarily present in every person of that sign. And so sometimes I don't really feel that comfortable with a Sag. My partner, who I've been with for many years, is also a Sag. And he is like more of the typical Sag. But I've met other Sages who are quite different. And of course, the chart will definitely show up for people differently. So I would like to believe that a typical Sag, if a friend, a family member, a loved one, a partner tells them that their behavior is bothering them, that they will more likely than not accommodate that. For those people who deny it and make you like it's your problem, it's not their problem, you have your answer, even though it may not have been what you wanted to hear. You know that this person is not going to respect your feelings. And do you want to be in a relationship with somebody that doesn't respect your feelings? I know I wouldn't. So it's a really tough one, because some people are very obsessed with their religion, and they're obsessed with saving other people from some kind of horrible fate that they think is going to befall them if they don't join their religion. That's what a zealot is. And I know I've noticed that there are some people who get really, really freaked out when people proselytize to them, because they probably grew up with a very oppressive religion, and now they're like totally turned off to religion. So they can't stand even hearing about it, which is sad. That's the abuse of the sixth chakra. Or maybe, I don't know if it's the seventh chakra, one of those upper chakras, because it's the belief systems. And when you abuse that, that's like one of the worst things you can possibly do, is abuse somebody else's belief systems. Because then it makes it hard for them to believe in anything. And that's sometimes where atheists are born, from that environment. Okay, well, on that note, I think I'm going to leave it there. And if you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Thanks for listening. Bye.